good evening to all. Uh, Let me first convey my gratitude to Indian Orthopedic Association, Dr. Meena, Dr. Atul Srivastav, Dr. Manish Dhawan, and Dr. Ravi Chauhan for organizing this. Now, let us move on to different, conditions affecting the hip, and the first thing is non-union fracture neck of the femur. Now, rightly, it has been told that this is the unsolved fracture because there is no consensus on the treatment modalities for every stage of the non-union of the fracture. And number two, that whatever treatment is being followed, the outcome is highly unpredictable in every treatment. That's why it has been told as the unsolved fracture. Now, as per the US FDA, non-union for other bones or long bones is established when minimum 9 months has elapsed since the injury and fracture shows no visible signs of healing for 3 months, that you know. But remember that fracture neck femur is defined non-union after only 3 months of injury. So in fracture neck of femur, if 3 months has elapsed, you can brand it as a non-union. And these are the terms you must remember, that when the patient presents with fracture neck femur within 48 hours, it is acute fracture neck femur. But if there is a presentation beyond 48 hours till 3 weeks after the injury, it is termed as delayed presentation of the fracture neck femur. And if the delay is more than 3 weeks, then it is termed as neglected fracture neck of the femur. And it is beyond 3 months, then you tell it's a non-union of the fracture neck of the femur. Why it is important? Because the main two problems which are associated with non-union is first, avascular necrosis. It varies from 12 to 86% in the literature, and non-union, which varies from 12 to 40% in the literature. Remember, these are the two most important main complications in fracture neck femur. The classification which is followed is commonly the Gardens classification or Powell's classification. This classification holds for acute fracture, but not for non-union. Remember, Gardens classification is based on the displacement of the fracture, and Powell's classification is based on the angle of the fracture to an imaginary horizontal line. Though some surgeons, they prefer to follow Powell's classification in non-union fracture neck of femur, but we have a new classification, that is Dr. Sandhu's classification, which has come in CORR 2005. I'll be talking about it a little later. Now let's know his story. As Dr. Naresh Sethi told you, usually I'm giving a case scenario that 55-year-old male, a manual laborer, coming with a history of pain in the right or left hip joint for the last 6 months, and inability to walk and carrying out the activities of daily living for the 6 months. If it is a young patient, usually the fall is a significant fall or injury, but if it is an old patient, then usually the fall is a trivial fall. And the patient complains he was unable to walk immediately after the fall. Except, remember, if the patient was able to stand and walk and right now gradually deteriorated, please remember there is a possibility of valgus impacted fracture immediately after the fall, which has probably deteriorated over the period of time, and now it has resulted in a displaced fracture. Now, if you see the treatment history, see, the patient was put on skin traction, whether patient is operated or conservatively treated. And you just ask about the post-operative protocol which has followed. If the patient was non-weight bearing and or the traction was continued, probably there was an associated fracture of the acetabulum or hip dislocation. Or if the patient was allowed partial weight bearing after 6 weeks, probably it was intertrochanteric fracture. But if the non-weight bearing was continued for a prolonged period, maybe about 3 months or so, then probably it was a transcervical fracture neck of femur. And during the post-operative period, if there was fever or delayed wound healing or drainage, wound wash was given, or any of the implant removal was done, probably there was some kind of infection which was associated. Then you see the patient gait, as you can see here, as Dr. Taneja told you that about antalgic gait. On the right side, there is a very short stance phase, and this is because the hip is painful. This is an antalgic gait, which you will comment on this patient. On examination, patient's attitude will be flexed, abducted, and externally rotated. There will be shortening, obvious shortening, which is seen in this patient, as you can see here. If there is a scar, then see whether it has healed by primary or secondary intention. Was there a discharge or any implant is protruding through the scar? That will give you an idea what kind of fracture is it. You can see the visible wasting of the thigh calf or gluteal region. On palpation, we'll find tenderness in the mid-inguinal point as classically it is described, joining the anterosuperior spine to the pubic symphysis. And if it is a bitrochanteric compression, you can elicit the pain at the mid-inguinal point as well. If you're lucky, then if the fracture is of less duration, you can find a crepitus. There will be visible upward displacement of the greater trochanter. And if there's a trochanteric fracture, you will find the irregularity over greater trochanter, broadening or thickening or tenderness of the trochanter that will differentiate a trochanteric fracture from a fracture neck of the femur. The extent of the scar can tell you about whether there was a percutaneous pinning or open pinning, or there was a treatment with a plate like open reduction or internal fixation, or if there's a acetabular fixation, there will be a bigger incision associated with this scar. On movements, you can see if there's a flexion deformity by the Thomas test. There is a possibility of deformity when coronal plane deformity, when there is associated soft tissue contracture or capsular contracture. Commonly, adduction deformity is associated, but if the patient is mobile and walking, then probably abduction deformity is more common because patient tries to keep the limb length equal by abducting the hip. You can check for the other movements. Please remember, one of the fallacies that, as you can see here, if the patient does the movement by dragging the feet on the bed, then this is not an active movement. You have to tell that it is a passive movement as the patient is taking the help of the bed. When you do the measurements, look for your apparent length and true length. And usually in the fracture neck femur, it is associated with the true shortening, which you will find. And as discussed earlier, that in Brand's triangle, the shortening will be a supratrochanteric shortening. You can draw the Nellton's line to see that trochanter has gone up, and you can measure the thigh or calf wasting with your measurements. The special tests are important. You will find the telescoping test positive in a non-union of the fractured neck of the femur. And if you do the Trendelenburg test, you can see that either the pelvis will remain at the same level, or there may be a drooping of the pelvis when the left side hip is affected. Active SLR may not be possible, but sometimes if there is a capsule contracture of the patient has got any internal fixation device, there is a possibility of active SLR. But remember, this SLR will be ill sustained. So you tell that active SLR present, but it is ill sustained. And the gate part I have told you in the beginning, or if you can tell at the end that there is an antalgic gate which is there. Usual differential diagnosis in a is the fractured malunited, and to differentiate, fracture neck of femur occurs in older patient with a trivial injury, whereas in fracture usually it happens in a younger patient, and there is a high velocity like road traffic accident is associated. The tenderness will be there in fracture neck femur in the mid-inguinal point, whereas in it will be on the lateral aspect of the hip. There will be normal in fracture neck femur. The trochanter may be thickened, irregular, or tender on the trochanteric fracture. There will be positive telescoping here. Here it will be absent if the fracture trochanter is malunited, but if there is a non-union of the trochanter, then telescoping will be grossly positive. And in fracture neck femur, because the capsule prevents gross telescoping, it will be less. Bitrochanteric compression, there will be pain in the mid-inguinal point, whereas here tenderness will be trochanter. And as I told you, commonly non-union fracture neck of femur goes into non-union, and fracture trochanter goes into malunion. Next, examiner asks that what should you do? You tell that I'll do a X-ray and X-ray pelvis with the both hips. Remember, don't forget to tell that I'll take the APA X-ray in traction and internal rotation in order to visualize whether the calcar or neck fragment is present. And you take a lateral view as well. Why you'll do X-ray? Because X-ray will help in confirming my diagnosis, and also it will classify the neglected fracture, which I'll tell you in little later. Any other investigation you want to do? If there is a metal in situ or there is an implant in situ, better to do a CT scan. CT scan will show you whether the fracture is united or not, whether there is a bony sclerosis which is associated, whether there is a trabecular resorption, microfractures, subchondral collapse, or there may be avascular necrosis seen in the CT scan. But if there is no metal inside, then you can do a MRI to look for the viability of the femoral head. Now this is the classification which I was talking about. This is the first and important classification about neglected fracture neck femur published in the Clinical Orthopedics in 2005. You must go through this article. This is Dr. Sandhu's article from India. The group 1, where the proximal femoral fragment is more than an inch, or more than 2.5 centimeter, and fracture gap is less than 1 centimeter. Group 2, when the proximal fragment again more than 2.5 centimeter and gap is between 1 centimeter and 1 inch, easier to remember. And group 3, when proximal fragment is less than 2.5 centimeter or the gap is more than 1 inch. And any of these 3 groups associated with a avascular necrosis of the head, then it comes under group 3. And how will you measure the length of the proximal fragment? It is measured from the upper margin of the fovea centralis to the midpoint of the fracture margin. This is how we measure the proximal fragment. Here questions are asked about blood supply of the head of the femur. Kroc has described the blood supply of the head of the femur. Remember 2 important arteries, the medial circumflex femoral and lateral circumflex femoral, which arise from the profunda femoris artery. They form a circle of arterial circle just medial to intertrochanteric crest, and from there the retinacular vessel travel superiorly, like laterally, medially, anteriorly, and posteriorly. And this most important vessel is the lateral retinacular branches, which arises from the deep branch of the medial circumflex femoral artery, because that supplies the weight bearing region of the head. And hence, if the blood supply is affected here, then that patient becomes more painful, because this is the weight bearing region of the head. In addition to that, the second group of vessel intraosseously travels to the head of the femur, and third is the branch from the obturator artery supplied to the ligamentum teres. Now, what is the cause of non-union in fracture femur? Please answer that in the neck of femur, the cambium layer of the periosteum absent, because the cambium layer contains the osteoprogenitor cells, which helps in the fracture union. Number 2, synovial fluid washing out the fracture hematoma, and synovial fluid contains the fibrillation agents, which hampers the fracture healing. The tamponade effect which is given, that is because of the tamponade effect, because of the fracture hematoma that compresses up the blood vessels externally, that leads to hamper in the fracture union. Moreover, if the patient walks, there is a shearing effects on the fracture site, which affects the vascular ingrowth and hence leads to non-union of the fracture. But if you are asked that what are the factors which contribute to non-union after the treatment, that may be due to inaccurate reduction of the fracture, or there may be a loss of fixation or failure of the implant. There is a possibility of vascular insufficiency during the primary injury. There is a possibility of posterior comminution or posteriorly comminuted fracture, or if the patient are not taken in treatment. So these are the factors which contribute to non-union after the fracture takes place. Next, we come to the treatment. Remember, when you are asked what is your goal of treatment, tell the patient wants a painless, mobile, and stable hip. And the treatment depends on these factors, that age of the patient, and what is the physical status of the patient, and what is the occupation of the patient. What is the duration of non-union, and what is the viability of the head, and whether the sphericity of the head is maintained or there is a collapse of the femoral head, and what is the amount of neck resorption. And of course, if there is a limb length inequality, that will, that factor is taken into consideration. So the decision making that irrespective of vascularity of the head, if you are achieving a good reduction and neck and shaft angle is maintained, and if the fracture is less than 3 weeks old, then go and fix it. And that is stage 1 of Sandhu's classification. Between 3 weeks and 3 months, that means beyond 3 weeks, in addition to fixation, always add some, augment it with some kind of bone graft, like a fibula graft or muscle pedicle bone graft, and that is Sandhu's stage 2, Sandhu's classification. But if the fracture is beyond 3 months, then sometimes it is associated with shortening or varus deformity of the head. Then in addition to fixation, it will require some kind of osteotomy, so that you maintain the neck shaft angle, and you can augment with a bone graft, or you may not augment with a bone graft. And either in stage 1 or stage 2, you can follow this when there is shortening and varus deformity. And last is if there is segmental collapse or head is not viable, and you can go for a replacement arthroplasty, and that is Sandhu's stage 3. So first thing is close reduction and internal fixation. This kind of fixation, multiple screw The inverted triangle configuration, always use that Kalkar screw has to be placed, otherwise the fracture will go into varus. Or you can fix with a dynamic hip screw with a screw superiorly or without the screw, or you can use a lateral plate like this with multiple screws there. Please remember the incidence of vascular necrosis and non-union is slightly higher in dynamic hip screw compared to multiple cannulated screws. Now you can do a closed reduction or open reduction with a single or double fibula graft, because fibula provides mechanical strength, and in addition to that, because it is autograft, it provides a biological solution and it stimulates the union. These are two important aspects of fibula. Technically, it is less demanding in young adults, but vascularized fibula graft, though it has got a superior results, but technically more demanding, and it may require your help of your plastic surgeons in this procedure. Now, this is one of our patient, a 26-year-old male, 1-year-old non-union. This is Sandhu's type 2 or stage 2, where proximal fragment is more than 1 inch. Here we fixed with, that is the lateral view, and we fixed with double fibula and 1 screw. Remember, when you are doing a double fibula, then you have to pass 3 K wires or guide wires parallel to each other in both an epilateral view. So one K wire has to be anterior superior, one has to be central, one has to be posterior inferior. So your fixation goes like this, and there's a union of the fracture both in epi and lateral views. And these are the most of the studies about fibula graft are done with the Indian population, and the largest number of patients is from Sandhu's article in 2005, whereas other authors have shown almost the result varying from about 87% to about 96% excellent or good results. Next important method of treatment is muscle pedicle bone graft with or without fixation. It started with Mayers in 1974, who did with quadratus muscle, muscle pedicle bone graft. You have to go by posterior approach. Patient is in a prone position. The bone is lifted, allowing the quadratus muscle, femoris muscle, and this is fixed at the fracture site. Remember, some amount of neck has to be there. If the neck is completely absorbed, this procedure not possible. The advantage is that, quadratus femoris, it prevents the retroversion of the neck because you are fixing it posteriorly, and moreover, it is providing the reduction of the fracture. Remember, the anatomical reduction is not mandatory doing the muscle pedicle bone graft. You can fix it with a screw or a wire. The results are 90% union rate, but 11% collapse at 2 years. Technically, it is more demanding. Boxy have shown in our country also tensor fasciolata or sartorius muscle pedicle bone graft. But if you are doing this, then it has to be fixed anteriorly. Then you have to use the lateral or supine position and use the lateral or anterolateral approach. This is one of our patients of non-union fracture, transcervical fracture neck femur done with a muscle pedicle bone graft there along with a fixation. Next comes the osteotomy. There are two types of osteotomy, but commonly followed osteotomy is a valgus osteotomy or abduction osteotomy. It started with Powell's in 1927, who did a VY osteotomy like this in a classical, as you can see, a V-shaped wedge is taken out, and the osteotomy looks like a Y-shaped, where you convert the shear forces into compression forces by changing the angle of the fracture. It's a valgus intertrochanteric osteotomy, which is done nowadays, which is slightly modified Powell's osteotomy. It corrects the coxa, and if there is associated limb length discrepancy, because you are achieving valgus, you will lengthen the limb. Marty popularized it in 1989. Remember, the disadvantage of the osteotomy is that if the valgus wedge is more than 30 degrees, then you may compromise the blood supply and do a avascular necrosis of the femoral head, because the valgus head, there is increase in joint reaction force, and that will lead to avascular necrosis. And excessive valgus angle also will make the THR difficult in future. Now, this is one of the patient where the non-union fracture neck femur, a valgus osteotomy done with a fixation of the dynamic hip screw. The other osteotomy is a displacement osteotomy that is described in McMurray osteotomy, which is not done nowadays, but some examiner may like to ask, you tell that it's a medial displacement subtrochanteric osteotomy, and there the patient has to be immobilized for a longer time, and it grossly alters the hip biomechanics. That's why it is not done nowadays. Now this is the lateral view of this patient. Now this is a Devadas et al. Have shown the 3-in-1 procedure. that you do a valgus osteotomy, fix with either a dynamic hip screw or an angle blade plate, and use a non-vascular fibula graft. So all these three procedures together will give a good superior outcome in a union of this fracture. The last option remains a replacement arthroplasty. Either do a bipolar arthroplasty or a total hip replacement. Remember, bipolar arthroplasty is indicated when there is an old age population beyond 75 years, whereas total hip arthroplasty is comparatively old age population less than 75 years. Bipolar arthroplasty, relatively sedentary life, or patient has got any medical comorbidities like a unfit for anesthetic procedure or cardiac procedure which has been done, whereas total hip replacement is preferred in physiologically active patients. Bipolar arthroplasty is a less invasive procedure and quick procedure, so usually preferred in patient with cardiac comorbidity or ASA grade 3, grade 2 and grade 3 patients. And you can select a cemented or cementless. Usually patients with cardiac comorbidity or history of deep vein thrombosis or pulmonary embolism, better to prefer a cementless procedure. And there is a theoretical possibility that you can convert to total hip replacement. Whereas total hip replacement is preferred when there is a pre-existing arthritis. Here the pain relief is more predictable and gives a better functional outcome, what the literature tells. You can select the cemented or cementless depending upon the quality of the bone. Here is a cementless bipolar arthroplasty which has been done because the corticomedullary ratio or the bone quality is good and patient was associated with medical comorbidities. One slide about the technique of doing arthroplasty. Consider an anterolateral approach rather than a posterior approach because literature shows less of dislocation rate with an anterolateral approach. Selectively prefer to use a larger head, and nowadays the dual mobility hips have come. We have got better outcome from dislocation point of view, and definitely total hip replacement has got improved functional hip scores and lower reoperation rate compared to hemiarthroplasty. But only disadvantage that higher dislocation rates are associated with total hip replacement compared to hemiarthroplasty. And always discuss with the patient about limb length discrepancy in this group of patient, because in order to restore the stability, surgeon eventually lands up with a lengthening of the limb. This is one of the patient, 102 years old. He presented with his transcervical fracture neck tumor. As you can see here, there is a reduction of the joint stress and the arthritis of the hip. So he did a cemented type of total hip replacement. This is 4 years follow-up of this patient before the patient passed away due to some medical reasons. Hence, dear friends, take home message that femoral fracture non-union is established if it is beyond 3 months after the injury. Patient presents with pain and inability to walk. There is a external rotational deformity or attitude of external rotation. There will be tenderness at the hip joint anteriorly. There is a possibility of crepitus present. No active SLR, or there may be ill-sustained SLR if there is some amount of internal fixation is there. There will be positive Trendelenburg, the telescoping test, be antalgic gait. Do a X-ray, tell that I will do a X-ray to confirm my diagnosis and classify what is the stage of Sandhu's classification. Do a MRI to look for the viability of head, and if there are implants inside, then prefer a CT scan. Do the treatment with close reduction internal fixation or open reduction internal fixation. You can augment with a fibula or muscle pedicle bone graft, or do a valgus osteotomy if there is a varus deformation or shortening of the limb. If the head is sphericity of the head, or there is a collapse of the head or avascular necrosis of the head, prefer a hemiarthroplasty or a total hip replacement depending upon the age of the patient, activity of the patient, and decide about cementing or non-cemented depending upon the bone quality of the patient. As I told, that truly it's an unsolved fracture because there is no consensus on the treatment, and there is unpredictable outcome of this treatment. All of you, I urge you to go through this article by Dr. Anil Jain, which has been published in 2014 of Indian Journal of Orthopedics about treatment of neglected femoral neck fracture. They have reviewed the literature so nicely. You will get excellent knowledge about this article. Please go through this article. I thank you for a patient hearing, and I thank again Indian Orthopedic Association for giving me this opportunity.